I almost didn't answer the damn door. It was one of those long, slow afternoons where the sound of a knock feels like a robbery, stealing your peace. My knees were wrapped in a blanket, and my TV was playing some nature documentary I wasn't really watching, just background noise to keep the silence from swallowing me whole. I would have let it keep knocking, too, if it hadn't gone soft, like whoever was on the other side wasn't in a rush, wasn't angry, just waiting, kindly. That's what got me. Gentle taps always pry open places you thought were sealed shut. I stood up slow, wrapped my robe a little tighter. The floor was cool under my feet, even through my socks. Another knock, slower this time, as if it was asking. I opened it, and there he was, Mr. Charles Harmon, standing on my doorstep with a bouquet of flowers that didn't even match. They looked like they came from that grocery store on Westfield, the one where they rip off the price tag and leave the apology in the stems. I didn't say a word, just stared at him like I was looking through a ghost, because in a way, I was. He smiled. Not big, not bold, just enough for me to see it was still him. Age had softened his face, made his eyes sink into their history. That old flat cap was still tilted to one side, like memories lean when you carry them too long. "Hi, May," he said softly, like we'd just finished a conversation yesterday. I didn't speak. My hand stayed on the door, grip tightening. He held out the flowers, awkward and slow, like maybe he thought they'd be enough. "I didn't think you'd open the door," he whispered. I took a breath through my nose and spoke flat. "You got some nerve." He nodded like he deserved that, like he'd already practiced it in his head 12 times and still didn't know what to say next. I looked him up and down. Slacks those knees were too old for, no coat, wind tugging at the sleeves of his shirt, and those damn flowers shaking in his hand like even they weren't sure what they were doing here. He tried again, voice breaking just a touch. "I know I don't have the right, not even to knock, but I had to." My fingers twitched at the doorknob. I could feel the heat rising behind my ears like a stovetop left on too long. 30 years, Charles, 30 years. "I know. 30 years and not a word, not a letter. You think you can just show up anyway?" His eyes dropped. "I don't think I can make anything right. I didn't come for that. I wanted to see what I lost." I stared at him. Not the older man, not the beard and the crow's feet, but the man beneath it. The one who left without a goodbye. The one who stopped calling 3 days before Christmas. The one I used to wait on like payday. And somehow I didn't cry. I thought I would. But grief's a strange beast. When it sits too long, it turns to dust. I looked at the flowers once more, then back at him. "I ought to throw these back in your face," I said. "You should," he agreed. I took them from his hand. Not 'cause I forgave him. Just, Lord, I didn't even know why. He took a half step forward. "Can I come in?" I didn't move. "Not tonight, Charles." His face broke a little, just a crease, not a crumble, but he didn't argue. "All right," he said, almost like a sigh. I closed the door, not slamming it, but slow and firm, like sealing a chapter. And I stood there behind it, forehead against the wood, breath shaky. "Don't cry, you don't cry no more, May." Time passed quiet. The house didn't judge me. It just sat the same way it had every day since Emery passed. Same folded blankets, same creaky floorboard, same photo frame tilted on the bookshelf. I walked back to the kitchen counter and laid the flowers there, not in any vase, just sat them down like a thought I wasn't ready to unpack. And I kept my silence like jewelry, didn't call nobody, didn't tell nobody. But you know the funny thing? I dreamed about him that night. Young Charles, same laugh, same scent of old spice and fresh-cut grass. We were on a porch swing and he was telling me about some idea he had about building his own business, the way he used to, the way it was. I woke up mad. He took not just a part of my heart, but time. Time I didn't have extra to give. You ever remember who you used to be and feel embarrassed for her? That's how I felt about the May who used to sit on the porch in her yellow floral dress, twirling her earring every time Charles Harmon spoke. Love can make you slow and foolish. That's the beautiful part. That's the dangerous part, too. 2 days passed. I didn't expect to hear from him again. Thought maybe that was it. Maybe he just came to rustle up the past and disappeared again. Would have fit the pattern. Then I hear it. Another knock. I wasn't wearing lipstick. I didn't have on perfume. Lord knows I wasn't ready. But I opened the door anyway. He wasn't holding flowers this time. "I forgot something last time," he said. "Oh, what's that?" I asked, arms crossed. One eyebrow raised like my sister Shine when she'd caught you sneaking snacks before dinner. He reached into a brown paper bag and pulled out my old Pyrex casserole dish. I blinked. "From that morning you made me your peach cobbler," he said. "Back in summer of '89. I swore I'd return it." He handed it to me, cleaner than it probably ever was when I had it. I took it, but I didn't smile, not yet. "That's a long time to run an errand," I said. He chuckled. "Yeah, I got a lot of nerve." "You got a lot of nerve twice." His eyes softened. The porch light made his gray hair glint at the tips. Wind whistled through the street behind him, and for a second I forgot who was wrong and just remembered the boy who used to read poems off the back of cereal boxes when I was sad. "I'll go if you want me to," he said, hands in his jacket pocket, no pressure in his voice. I didn't move, just looked at him. Not the years, not the damage. I looked at the apology resting behind his eyes, and the pain that sat next to it. "I'll make you tea," I said finally, "but you ain't staying." "Fair enough." I stepped back, just one step, and Mr. Harmon walked in, 30 years too late. But he walked in quiet, humble. That's all I needed in that moment. Not closure, not some fairy tale, just someone who finally came back without asking to be loved again, just to be seen. And I let him, not because I forgave the past, but because I wanted to understand it. Was I foolish? Maybe. But listen, if you're still with me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. And hey, subscribe if real stories still move something in you. Come back for the next part. 'Cause what he said at my table? That changed everything. He sat down like someone expecting to be sent right back out. Didn't look around the room, didn't try to take up space, just waited for me to bring him a cup of tea, both hands folded in his lap like a schoolboy in the principal's office. I didn't rush either. I needed a minute to catch my breath. You'd think after 30 years my spirit would have settled, but no. Seeing him again stirred up everything real calm water tries to hide. I poured 2 cups, looked down at the steam. I remember thinking, why now? Why flowers? Why me? When I came back to the living room, I handed him the best mug I had. My favorite floral one stayed in the cabinet. That wasn't his to sip from, not yet. He looked at the mug I gave him, smiled a little. "I remember this one," he said. "The blue one with the chip on the rim." I sat down, not beside him, across, legs crossed, arms folded. For a moment, neither of us said a word. The room creaked in its quiet, like it wanted to whisper something we weren't ready to hear. "You look good," he finally said, setting his cup down easy. "I look older. Say what you mean." He laughed. "No, I mean it. You carry time better than most people carry Sunday shoes." I didn't smile, but I wasn't angry either. "How long you been back in town?" I asked. 6 months. 6 months, and you just now knocked? He lowered his eyes. "I drove by this house maybe 20 times. Saw your light on. Saw the porch plants still growing. Every time, I told myself it wasn't the right day." "What made today the right one?" He shrugged. "I woke up and couldn't stomach another meal made for one." I didn't say anything. I sipped my tea and let that sadness hang between us. Loneliness has a sound. It's not crying. It's not begging. It's soft footsteps in a house where nobody's watching the door anymore. "You got kids?" I asked. "Someone looking after you?" He shook his head. "No fam left. Wife passed a year ago. No kids. At least, none I know." The way he said that did something to me. I don't know what, exactly. Just one of those aches that climbs up your chest and doesn't settle in any one rib. "You were gonna marry me," I said, my voice thin. "I know," he replied, almost in a whisper. "I wanted to." "No, you promised to." Silence, just enough to feel like a slap. And then I said what I'd been wanting to say for 3 decades. "Why did you leave?" He looked up at me, really looked. His gray eyes weren't cold. They weren't warm either. They were just old, heavy. "I was scared," he said. "That ain't enough, Charles. That ain't even close." "I was scared of hurting you." Then you disappeared and did exactly that. I was scared of not being good enough, he continued, voice trembling now. You were light, May. You didn't just shine, you lit up every struggling man in your shadow. I worked a factory job with rusty lunch breaks. I didn't have a savings. My mama was sick. I thought, if I disappeared before you got stuck with me, maybe I'd be doing you a kindness. Oh, is that what that was? I said, my voice sharper now. No, it was cowardice, but I couldn't say it back then. And finally, I cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet, painful exhale. Charles Harmon, you knew my heart. You took care of it, and then one day you treated it like it was baggage you couldn't carry. He nodded, eyes glossy now. I did. I didn't let him off easy. I didn't jump into warm forgiveness or forehead kisses. Instead, I looked back, way back. I was 28, working Tuesdays and Saturdays part-time at a soul food spot called Burns. I wore this little sunflower yellow shift dress I made myself, back when I still sewed. My hair was blown out soft, with edges sharp and earrings bigger than my common sense. Charles used to show up like clockwork, said he didn't come for the cornbread, said he came to see what had made the room feel warmer. We didn't fall in love fast. It wasn't something that sparked. It was slower than that, like molasses on a plate, sticking sweet and heavy. He'd come by on Sundays, help me hang sheets, paint porch railings, laugh that soft, lazy laugh like he was home already. And I let myself believe he was. We didn't even argue. That's what made it hurt. One day, he just didn't show up. No call, no note. And then silence. Weeks turned into months. When I saw his truck gone from the gravel lot permanently, that's when panic hit. But my pride? Oh, baby, my pride was thick. I told myself he must have gotten scared. Told myself I wouldn't beg to be loved, that if he didn't come back by himself, he never deserved to anyway. But I waited every night for 2 years. I never told anyone, just sat with it, quiet, while everyone else assumed I'd gotten over it. I had to become new, became someone else, married someone else I didn't fully love. I gave soft kindness to Emery, and we built something that was steady. It wasn't fire, but it kept the house warm. But every once in a while, I'd hear a song, some Al Green track, a jazz loop, or even the sound of someone whistling out of key, and I'd be 17 again, knees knocking, staring at Charles's laugh from the passenger side of his pickup. And I'd feel so damn stupid for still remembering. He watched me closely now, present Charles. Not the one from the past. This man in his 60s who couldn't undo anything. I reached out and tapped the side of my mug, not to stall, just to hold something while I spoke. You changed the temperature of my life, I said softly. May? And then you left me cold, real cold. Just don't. He sat back, let it go. I appreciated that. A good man still knows when he's done enough talking. I walked over and picked up the pot of tea, filled both mugs to the brim. Because sometimes tea buys time. And we still had so many pauses left to sit in. He looked over at the shelf by the window, saw the photo of me and Emery standing side by side on our anniversary trip to Savannah. I could feel the tension in the room shift when he noticed it. You loved him? He asked quietly. I took my time, sipped the tea again. He respected me. That's not what I asked. I loved him safe, I answered, with truth and hesitation wrapped around each word. I didn't dance in the middle of the street for him, no, but I smiled in my sleep sometimes. That answer satisfied him more than anything else could have, because in that split second, we both understood something. You can lose love and still have lived well. He finished his cup. I did too. Then he pulled something out from his coat pocket. A black and white photo, faded. It was of me, sitting in front of Burns, hair tied up, holding a cherry cola with a sly smirk. How on earth you get that? This? You gave me this. Slipped it in my glove box when I was fussing about not having nothing to keep from you. He held it out. I took it, fingers grazing his for a second longer than I expected. I kept this all these years, he added. You think I ain't think about you every week? My eyes burned. I blinked soft. Set the photo in my lap like it was something sacred. You ain't send it, I whispered. He looked broken by that. No, But I looked at it every birthday, every Sunday, every day my bones ached, and I wish I had somebody to hold on to. I looked at you. That was the first moment I almost cried. Almost. But I had one more thing to ask him before I let myself give anything away. One last question, I said. Ask it. You ever love anybody like you loved me? No, he said without searching, just clear. But I learned to settle with being loved, even when I didn't know how to give it back right. That's when I stood up. He stood too, not sure if he was being dismissed or hugged. I walked to the door. He followed. You'll be back? I asked. Now he was the one caught off guard. If you want me to. I ain't said all that. It hung between us, not flirty, not cruel, just honest. He opened the door slowly, turned to me one last time. You still wear yellow? I smirked. Only on days I feel brave. He nodded once. You should wear it more. Then he left the door open a half-inch so I could close it myself. And I did. But slower. Not to keep him out, but to give myself time to decide. Because letting someone in after 30 years ain't about flowers or apologies. It's about whether your soul's ready to remember that kind of tenderness again. And I didn't know yet. But the flowers were still in water, still on my counter, still blooming. So maybe, just maybe, I was getting there. The next time he came by, it was raining real light. Not thunderstorm rain, more like the kind that just taps on your windows like it's trying to get let in too. I had already set out a second cup before he knocked. Not that I'd admit that to anybody. He showed up looking exactly the same. Flat cap, windbreaker, khakis that didn't quite meet the tops of his shoes, but his shoulders felt 10 pounds lighter than the first time. He carried nothing in his hands. Tea? I said, before he even fully stepped inside. He smiled. If it's still that lemon zinger with too much honey, yes, ma'am. I chuckled under my breath and motioned him to sit. I'd changed out the couch cushions since last time. A quiet attempt at starting over. Fresh lemon-colored covers in place of the old faded red ones. I told myself it wasn't for him, but maybe it was. I was wearing jeans this afternoon, first time in weeks, just felt more real. My blouse had a little peach pattern on it, hair tied back in a scarf, but not the old dark green one. This one was soft white, trimmed in lace, the kind of scarf Mama used to fold real careful before church. We drank our tea, didn't even jump into conversation, just sipped, letting the sound of rainfall carry its weight. Background cleansing. That's what life feels like when you're older, like quiet gets louder if you sit with it too long. So, I said after a long pause, you been bringing anything else back besides casserole pans and memories? He swallowed, settled down in his chair. His expression shifted just enough for me to see it. Yeah, he said. Today I brought the truth. I blinked. All right then, floor's yours. He sat up straighter. Looked like a schoolboy about to admit breaking the principal's window. There's something I've been carrying, he started. Something I should have told you 30 years ago, but I was too ashamed. That made my palms sweat. I'm not good with secrets, Charles. Best say it plain. He nodded, then looked right at me with a mix of guilt and something deeper, something scared. The reason I left back then, it wasn't just fear. That was part of it, yes. Not feeling worthy, not knowing if I could be the kind of man I promised. But something else happened too. About 2 months before I disappeared, I leaned forward slightly but stayed silent. There was a woman from Mississippi. Her and I had shared time before I met you. My stomach twisted already. I don't do soap opera stories. I don't do surprises like this. But I didn't speak. I gave him the rope, and I was watching what he did with it. She showed up, he said, voice cracking, and told me she was pregnant. She said the baby was mine. I froze. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I'd been lying. Our timing, it overlapped by a whisper. I didn't cheat, May. Not while we were together. But the consequences caught up. I took a deep breath, sat back against the cushion. I asked her to do a test. She refused, said she didn't need to prove nothing, said she wanted nothing to do with me, no father in the picture, just money. It got silent between us again. His tea sat untouched on the table now. I left because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. Give her support, work a second job if I had to, disappear before I let you down. My mouth was dry, but I finally spoke. So there's a grown child out there? I don't know, he whispered. I never saw them, never found them again. She moved, changed numbers. I never knew for sure. Lord have mercy, I said, voice aging 10 years in one breath. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter. Folded, worn, almost soft from being opened too often. She mailed this to me 2 years ago. It's the only thing I have. He handed it across the coffee table. I didn't reach for it right away. Why are you giving that to me? I asked. Because I'm tired of holding it by myself. And because you deserve to know why I disappeared without giving you the closure you needed. I finally picked it up, opened it. Her handwriting was small, sharp, just said a few lines. I raised my child the best I could. You weren't there, but I didn't want you in their life. That's what I needed to do. They're nearly 30 now. Don't come looking. Just know they're all right. No name, no signature. I handed the letter back, didn't say anything for a minute. I don't know what you want from me, Charles, I finally said, gently. Understanding? Sympathy? I got pieces of both, but not the whole puzzle. I don't want anything yet, he replied. I just want to be in the room where the truth can breathe. I exhaled like I'd been holding it since he first walked in. You ever think about finding them now? He nodded. Yes. Every year on their birthday, I write their name in a journal, or what I imagine their name would have been. Some part of me still wants to show up somewhere and fix it, but I don't know if I'm the right to do that anymore. Something about that hit me harder than I expected. You came here 30 years too late, I said quietly. Make sure you don't miss any other doors that might open. He lowered his head. I didn't want you to see me as a man who abandoned people. But you did, I said, matter of fact. You abandoned me, and maybe your child too, and now you sitting here asking for something you can't name. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said, face raised again, eyes red around the edges. Good, I replied, because I'm not giving it. Another silence. Not angry this time, just real. But, I added, after sitting with my own heart for a beat, I still made you a peach cobbler last night. God help me. His face broke into the softest smile I'd seen on any person in years. I'd come back just for the crust, he said, grinning. I rolled my eyes and stood up, headed for the kitchen. All right then, arms up, I called over my shoulder. Arms up? If you even think about walking back in this house again, I'm checking your pockets and your heart. He laughed, like deep down kind of laugh. It filled the room. I took the cobbler out the fridge. The world didn't stop spinning. Nothing magical happened. But it felt like the ground under both of us had settled. Stillness, not peace, not war. Stillness. And that was the beginning of something. Things felt different the next time he came by. I don't mean romance different, or the slow heartbeat kind of different. I mean shifted, like the furniture of my emotions had been pushed a little to the left. Nothing fit quite the same anymore. I had rearranged the living room that morning. Moved Papa's old lamp beside the window, fluffed every cushion, opened the blinds for once. Not because I was expecting good news or company, but because I needed light to fall different in here. Been living in soft shadow too long. I didn't wear my robe this time either. Wore a clean olive green dress with sleeves that hugged like they meant it. Fixed my hair into a tight puff with gold bobby pins lining one side. Just enough sass to protect my softness. No lipstick, no perfume. Just the clean scent of cocoa butter and lemon balm. He knocked right at 2 corn like the gentleman he still tried to be. I opened the door slow, didn't smile, just nodded. You hungry? I asked. His shoulders relaxed. Yeah, I am. I'd made collards and cornbread, nothing fancy, but enough to bring the silence to the table. We ate mostly quiet, the fork scraping only gently against the ceramic. About halfway through, he said, You cook like it's Sunday. That's the only way I know how, I answered. He looked at me carefully. That tilt of the head men do when they want to say something, but they still parsing how you gonna receive it. I've been thinking about our last talk, he said finally. That makes one of us, I replied, sipping my tea. He chuckled, then turned more serious. I thanked you for letting me back in here, he said. But I never asked. What it cost you? I paused. That question landed different. He had no idea how many nights I'd lost sleep sitting beside that vase full of dead grocery store flowers. How I kept wondering if letting him in meant letting old wounds scab over without healing. But instead of spilling all that, I said, "It cost me some peace and a little pride." "And was that worth it?" "I don't know yet," I said flatly. "Ask me next year." He set his fork down gently. "I want to show up right this time, whatever that looks like," he whispered. I nodded, but didn't answer. Because here's the thing, kindness ain't the same as trust. A man can show up gentle after hurting you and still not be ready for what love demands. Even softness gotta be earned. I stood and cleared the table, let the water run in the kitchen sink too long, thinking, hands in steaming suds, him quiet behind me. Then I asked, not turning around, "You ever wonder if I had secrets too?" He didn't respond right away. "You never struck me as the hiding type, May. Everybody got something they keep," I said. He stood, walked toward the kitchen, leaned against the side near the window. "I'm listening," he said. I dried my hands slower than I needed to, then turned around, leaned into the counter. "You remember Isaac, my neighbor from back in 93, 94? He blinked. "The teacher?" I nodded, smiled softly. "He asked me to marry him, twice." His mouth parted, but no words came out. "And?" I said no, I replied, but not because I didn't love him. "Why then?" "Because I still loved you," I said, looking him square. His face dropped. "Even then?" "Even then." The space between us filled with every unsaid moment from 30 years. I saw it press against his chest, felt it ring in my bones. "I didn't know," he said. "I figured you'd moved on." "I did, but you never left this house." I tapped my temple. "This one either." He stepped forward slow, but not threatening, just soft, present. "I don't know what to do with that, May." "You don't have to, just know it." Everything in that room suddenly felt tight. Not bad tight, full, like air before a thunderstorm. Truth heavy in the walls, settling into the furniture. "Can I ask something selfish?" he said. "You're already 3 questions into it," I joked. He didn't laugh. "Can I see the photo albums?" he asked. That caught me, off guard, off balance. "Which ones?" "All of them, starting from when we split." I hesitated, but then I realized he wasn't asking to see kids or holidays. He was trying to follow the trail he missed. Time travel through images. "I'll think about it." He took the answer like he took everything now. Patient, careful. Later that evening, long after he left, I walked to the closet and pulled out the tins wrapped in old cloth. The ones my eldest niece brought me years back with leather covers and gilded corners. I flipped through them slow. Emery's face, birthday candles, my sister's old hat, a trip to Biloxi in 2002 where I wore white linen pants and forgot where I'd parked the car. But I wasn't looking for those moments. I was looking for the ones where I smiled small, smiled faint. The smiles that said, "I'm here, but not all the way." Charles had robbed a piece of my youth, but I'd buried my joy too. That was the reckoning, and it wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. The next morning I sat down at my kitchen table, same mug, same morning tea, but a different spirit. I wrote a letter on yellow notepaper, the kind with flower borders. I wrote, "Charles, you don't get to be the whole story anymore. This ain't no second chapter. This is an epilogue with heavy edits. I can't promise you love. I can't promise forever, but I can promise real. If you can walk slow, if you can speak plain, if you can sit with my silence and not run this time, then you can stay, not as the man I lost, but as the one who came back ready, May." I sealed it in an envelope, left it on his doorstep before 6. Didn't ring the bell, just walked back home, sun slicing through the clouds like a reminder that even heavy skies eventually let the light back through. When I got home, the vase was empty, but I didn't throw it away. I filled it with water again, just in case. It had been 3 days since I left that letter on his doorstep, and he still hadn't come by. I didn't panic, didn't dial his number, didn't even check my phone all that often, because this time I wasn't waiting, I was living. I had repotted my spider plant, washed some curtains, finally threw out that old bag of dry pinto beans I swore I'd cook one day. And for the first time, my house didn't feel like it was echoing for someone else's return. It felt like it was mine again. I was wearing blue that morning, not navy, not dull, a clean sky summer blue cotton dress with short sleeves and buttons down the middle. My hair was wrapped in a cream scarf, loosely tied, soft curls peeking out the back. Earrings small, no lipstick. That day I didn't dress for anyone. I dressed like a woman who liked looking in her own mirror. I just poured a cup of tea, sat by the window, warm light glowing down the side of my arm, when I heard it. Not a knock, but a humming outside the window. That same low hum I remembered from way, way back. A gospel hum, sweet and half off key, rolling slow like someone trying to pray through regret. I peeked through the curtain. It was him, Charles, in a blue flannel, standing real still, a thick book under his arm. No flowers this time, just hands empty, face open. I opened the door. He smiled. "You read your own letter back?" I asked, half teasing. He nodded, twice, and took a walk after. "A long one?" I asked. He looked down at the ground, shifted his feet. "Long enough to understand that I ain't supposed to be chasing old love no more, just showing up steady, honest, hoping it finds me where I am." My eyes softened. He pulled the book from under his arm, handed it gently. "I brought you something." He placed it flat in my palm. "You always wanted to see more of me. This is where I live now." I looked down. A worn leather journal. Inside, his handwriting, neat and slow. Poems, memories, pages of notes, reflections from years past, things he was too ashamed to say and things he hadn't realized he needed to. The truth about his wife, his mistakes, even prayers scrawled sideways on loose pages. He'd filled this book with the silence between us. "Don't expect forgiveness in there," he added gently. "Only proof that I've grown." I ran my fingers across the cover. "In that case," I said, "you earned breakfast." His whole body exhaled. I stepped aside, held the door. He walked in, and the world didn't shift violently. No doves flew past the window, no romantic music, no sudden declarations. Just two brown folks moving quiet in the same space after doing the work. Honest and wrinkled and complex, but together again, in real time. I made grits, eggs, sausage. Charles poured juice with his nervous hands like always, the kind of hands that still trembled when they reached for closeness. We didn't say "I love you," not that day, but when he reached for the dishes, when I let him wash and he let me dry, we said it in silence. Later that week, I called my niece and told her to bring my good chair out to the porch again. The one with the loose arm and woven bottom that squeaks. Summer was starting to show up early this year, and I had nowhere to be but here, always right here. We sat together that Sunday evening, Charles and I, him in his cap, me in that same blue cotton dress. He didn't press for answers. I didn't offer timelines. We sat. We watched the sun melt into the trees, and I told him real soft, without looking over, "I ain't promising 10 more years, not even 5 months." He said, "I take days, May, just days. That's more than I ever earned with you." I nodded. "You got today," I said. He nodded. We listened to the crickets, and in that moment, I learned something I never knew before. Sometimes the win ain't the reunion. Sometimes the win is learning to let someone in slowly, the right way this time. With dignity, with spine, with choice. No need for rushing or regret. Just slow hands, soft eyes, and clear boundaries. That night, before we parted ways, I handed him back the journal. "You bring it next week." He smiled. "Weekly reading?" "We'll take turns." He reached for the screen door, paused. "You know," he said, "back then, I thought you were the one I didn't deserve. And now I see we both had growing to do. You were already a woman. I was just playing at being a man." I laughed, low in my throat. Better late than never. He stepped off the porch and into dusk, and I stood there for a moment, not waiting, just grounded, rooted in a quiet that didn't feel heavy anymore. A pause that felt like music. Let me say this. I didn't let him in because it was romantic, or because I was lonely, or because forgiveness is easy with age. I let him in because I knew I'd waited my whole life to see who he'd turn into, and he'd waited his whole life to finally face who he was. We weren't here to chase time. We were here to sit beside it, still, steady, present, and see if anything gentle could grow. And sometimes, that's all the healing love ever needs. Just two people, finally at peace in the same room. I tell stories like this one, the stories we don't post, the ones we carry quiet at night, the second chances that don't come wrapped in glitter, but still arrive soft with truth. If this moved something in your chest, if you ever loved someone you should have given up on, or if you walked away from somebody who once changed your world, subscribe to Tales of Ora Mae. What would you do if an old love knocked on your door, 30 years too late? Let me know. I'll be waiting in the comments.